Thank you. Hello, I'm Ishan, and my co-author, Professor Dhanarajan, is sitting over there. And the other co-author, Dr. Chee Seng is from University of Malaya. Both of us are from Wawasan Open University. Before I start, I need to bring up something. When we were having tea, Professor Wayne said that you should believe everything I say. It's not the case. Really, you can argue. Okay. Today, what I want to look at is, well, let's put it this way. This paper was not written to provide answers. It was written to ask questions. So what I'm trying to do today is to ask a few questions and maybe point towards answers or potential answers to these questions. Well, I hope to structure my short talk. I'm going to keep it very light around these things. A bit of background theory. I mean, not the OER theory. I'm sure we all know that. A bit of literature. I am going to define a problem. Then I'm going to tell you how we look for some answers, and which raised more questions. And then we are going to provide some more answers to it. So I'm sure at the end of all of that, we will have more questions as well. Right, because we are doing this as a follow-up to the OER Congress and the World Declaration, I thought I'd use one of the statements. This is on searching and locating open educational resources. Obviously, everyone there thought that it is an important point, and I've underlined and embolded specific and relevant. Those two words were my contribution to the OER declaration. So I'm quite proud of that, and I thought I would brag about that a little bit. Right. What it says is that we actually need to find more tools and ways of locating OER. It's not just locating OER, but it's locating specific and relevant OER. I'll go into what specific and relevant means. It's not a problem to find OER. Okay, there are plenty of material out there licensed under the Creative Commons license, and you can actually locate each one of these things. But the problem is to locate material which are useful for your teaching and learning purposes. So in this case, the first word is specific. As the example states, a course from final year physics wouldn't be suitable for high school physics. So you have to find the specific open educational resource for your teaching. The second one is relevant. When you say chemistry, you will get X number of resources on the web, but you that particular piece of material should be relevant to your teaching and learning needs. Then, and quality. We had a debate about quality in the morning. My take on quality, and this is the take by many, that's why in the declaration they have omitted the word quality, because I suggested three words: specific, relevant, and quality. Quality is perceived. So it all depends on what you perceive the material to be. Let's say, for example, if I'm looking at a computer science piece of material, it might be of quality for me, for my purposes, my teaching purposes. But if you ask a MIT professor, then he might say, no, it's not, it's useless. So again, one of the previous speakers said we actually develop the material, the OER, and give it to you and leave it to you to decide how to use it. So again, quality is perceived. Now the question is, if quality is perceived, then how can search engines bring quality material or useful material for use and reuse? Because search engines is how we find these materials. Other than repositories, even in repositories, we have to use their search mechanism because we don't have the time to browse through 30,000 resources. So let's look at that a little bit more. Right. Again, another thing I'm proud of. Instead of quality, we developed a framework called desirability. This is a parametric measure of the level of openness built on Wiley's 4R models, which Vincent mentioned just now, the level of access, whether a piece of material is editable, is it PDF, is it doc, is it OpenOffice, or is it text, HTML, and the relevance, which looks at the match between the content of the material and the actual use that you are using it for. So with desirability, when you plug in the desirability into a search mechanism, you can actually get a set of material which are somewhat useful, which are open, which are accessible, and which are relevant. Then it's up to you to go through them and see whether if they're of any quality. But what this does is it actually cuts down the noise which you will receive through a conventional search mechanism. Moving on, as I said, I'll look at a little bit of literature. The literature says the current search mechanisms are incapable of searching relevant and usable open educational resources, and there is difficulty in finding quality OER matching a specific context. Well, I wanted to test this theory, so I went on to Google. I went into advanced search. I searched for essentially CC BY stuff on chemistry, and you can see the results here. If you Google often, I'm sure you do, you would know that you will only look at the first few, maybe first 10 results, right? And out of this, the results over here, the first 3 are Wikipedia, then we have Wikibooks, which is usable. I'm not saying Wikipedia is not usable, but us as academics tend to shy away from Wikipedia a little bit. Wikibooks is usable. Then there's a International Journal of Chemistry, which is CC BY. I actually checked, but you wouldn't be able to use that in your courses, most probably. And the remaining, again, more Wikipedia. You can do it right now. You can use the Wi-Fi to do this search. So the verdict, I guess the literature is correct. You cannot really use current search technologies. I mean, if Google can't do it, then I will be bold enough to say some of the other search engines can't do it either. And there is no single search engine available to locate resources from all the repositories, thousands of repositories available. And again, the desirability comes into play. They don't look at the level of openness. They don't look at the relevance and the accessibility. Right. So the question is, knowing this, knowing that we can't find useful OER, how is it affecting the Asian region with respect to the use and reuse of OER? We did a survey. It was a large project funded by IDRC. Thank you very much, IDRC. And this was just a part of it. We published the data, the preliminary data, myself and Professor Dhanarajan, along with many other collaborators, of whom some are here. And we got around 580 responses from around 10 countries. And it was an extensive survey, but the part I'm concentrating on today is just 1 or 2 items which concentrated on searching and location of OER. The data on the survey and the project is available on the OERAsia website if you want to go through it. So what did we find? So the first question is, do we like OER? It seems like we do. And out of all of these people, plenty said I've used it, and plenty more said I will use it. So that's question 1 down. So how do we get OER? They said we freely download it from the internet. If you look at the data we published, it was published during the regional forum leading up to the OER Congress. We said that I think people are confused between open education resources and digital resources. So that's why they seem to think Case is nodding his head because he was part of the group, and I think that's why they said we freely download it from the internet, which is not untruthful. You do download it from the internet, and how do we find OER? We Google it. Okay, so we tried Googling it, right? We couldn't find it, and these people seem to think that Googling will give you the resources you need. I'm just using Google as an example. It's generic search engines, such as Google, Yahoo, and Bing, and then it goes on, specific search engines and the repository specific searches and things like that. So the main point is, people use Google, right? So the literature says you can't use generic search methodologies, and there aren't any search mechanisms to find these things, find desirable OER, but people seem to use Google. So, question mark. So what do we do? I'm actually going very fast now. So what do we do? One recommendation would be for people, at least in the Asian region, to stick to the well-known repositories, such as Connections, such as WikiEducator, or go to the portal repositories, or the content portal repositories, such as Merlo or OER Commons, and try to find it there and use their search mechanisms. But then again, their search mechanisms are tailored to that particular portal, and you will only get resources depending on their algorithm, and I'm pretty sure they don't factor in desirability into their algorithm. That's why we came up with it. So that's the recommendation. But really, let's think about this now. Going into each of these repositories, let's say you want to find a piece of material on chemistry from a repository. How do you go about doing that? This is an academic who has other work as well, right? We have to watch YouTube, we have to go on Facebook, and well, anyway, doing on top of doing all of that, how do we find OER material? We have to identify which material to look for. Okay, I'm going to search for something on C++ programming, right? Then we identify the search queries. Undergraduate C++ programming, might work. Then we go into the repositories. Oh, this guy said this repository is good. Maybe I'll go and give it a go there. Run multiple queries on the search mechanism. Read each resource. Now, when you run a search query, it'll give you, maybe on average 40 odd responses in one of these repositories. You can go through some of them. It's not that the first 5 are the most relevant. You'll have to most probably go through the 30 or 40 before you find something useful. Identify useful resources. So that's from that particular repository, and repeat steps 3 to 6 on multiple repositories. I mean, do we have time to do all of that? I would certainly give up after the first try and only stick to whatever I find on the first repository. Maybe if we are really keen, like for example, if I created a course using OER as well, just like Vincent, and we might, because we are interested, we might go on to 3 repositories instead of 1. But really, if this movement is to pick up, do you really think academics will, go to the trouble of going to 20 repositories and running multiple queries and reading hundreds of resources before locating any OER? So there's a fundamental problem there, which needs to be addressed. So on second thought, using these repositories might not be the solution, because it becomes a lack of options rather than a choice. You go to a repository, a established, reputed repository, you find a piece of material and you say, okay, that's reputed, and I don't have any other choice. Oh, I don't have any other option. But if you really look at the repositories and the material available throughout the world, for example, UNISA has material. The African Virtual University has material. Wawasan Open University has material. I have material on my blog, which are CC BY. No one knows about my blog, right? So it's ishantalks.com, by the way. But I might have some good material, but no one knows about it. So, there's no point in generating thousands and thousands of material and putting it up there and just forgetting about it. There should be a way to go and search and link all of these materials together and get the most relevant or the most desirable resource for your teaching and learning needs. So is there a solution? Well, maybe. that was my question, and this is partially my answer to it. We, a bunch of us, Dr. Chan, myself, and Prof. Tam over there, we actually came up with a system, a artificial intelligence-based search engine called OER Scout, which goes against the traditional classification approach, which was explained earlier, where you get a poor soul to sit down and classify or write down all the categories of a particular domain and to categorize all the OER into those domains. It's not feasible. It's not scalable. So what we decided to do was to go with the clustering approach, where we actually get the algorithm to go in, read an OER material, understand what that material is about, and autonomously cluster it. So my Prof. Paul will be talking about a metadata, and this is kind of stepping on the toes of metadata people. This will completely ignore metadata. If you take a piece of material in mathematics and call it chemistry, a search engine will pick that up as chemistry, but it's really mathematics. But in this case, you eliminate the human error. It actually goes into the material, it reads the material and understands that it's on mathematics, then it understands that it's on calculus, and then it understands that it's CC BY or whatever, and then it understands that it's a HTML document, and it calculates the desirability and brings it to you as a OER material which is highly desirable and in calculus, without anyone actually defining anything. So, right. That's the prototype. That's how it looks. It's not a conventional search engine. It is a evolving learning algorithm. So it's more suggestive. As you can see, when you click on that's 17 minutes, right? Oh, thank you. When you click on a particular suggested topic, it will not bring you search results just like Google. It will give you suggested topics. You click on a suggested topic and it will bring all the resources, the most desirable resources from all over the place, every single repository, even my blog, and give it to you with the desirability index over there. And then on the side, it will give you related topics. So if you clicked on chemistry, it will actually tell you there are other topics on chemistry. So why don't you click on those and see what you get? So it works in a very interactive way. So at the moment, this is a prototype, and it's run by the user. But the next phase of it actually will take a syllabus. For example, if you're doing a course on Java, it will ask you for your syllabus, and it will actually compile the most desirable resources on each topic and give it to you. So you don't need to do all that searching anymore. You just need to concentrate on the quality aspect, which is reading and doing your academic job. Your academic job is not to search and locate OER. Your academic job is to read and understand and see whether that's useful for your students. So this system will actually give you that ability. Right, being the shameless promoter of myself and building up, if you want to know more about OER Scout, you better come to Japan. Because I'll be presenting the prototype at the AOU conference. Professor Yamada is nodding over there because he knows that. And the conclusions, there are no conclusions really. What we conclude is that there is a problem, and most of you will agree, I guess. And the solution, we are still working on it. Come to Japan. Right, acknowledgements. I really need to acknowledge IDRC at this point because the broader project was funded by IDRC. I wish to acknowledge the co-investigators from all over the place. Some of them are here. And also Wawasan Open University as well as University of Malaya. That's 20. So, thank you very much.
Spot on. Thank you, Ishan, for the interesting presentation. Now we come to the last paper. It's a paper by Paul Kawachi and Shuangxu Yin. It's only Paul who's presenting the paper. The title of they're from the Open University of China, recently renamed from the China Central Radio and Television University. The title of the paper is on tagging OER for skills profiling, user perspectives and interactions at no cost. Paul, please.
So today I would like to probably help provide one possible answer to those questions that Ishan was talking about, how to find the OER. And what I want to present is about social tagging and profiling, skills profiling as a method of social tagging of OER. And I'll go through these PowerPoint quite quickly. You can access them if you wish. And I've produced a larger paper with more details about this. The idea is that this method of tagging will be at zero cost to the institution, because as Ishan was mentioning, others have mentioned, it takes teacher time, and teachers are the most expensive part. So the basic thing is that the users, and I'm looking especially at lifelong learners here, or students who are taking courses at a distance, that they want the quality and the appropriate level. And this is recognized, for example, in OPAL reports. And by social tagging, we can do this at no cost. And this was, in fact, echoes the Paris Declaration that we've been hearing a lot about. The first one, part one, was mentioning that it should be cost efficient, and the last, there was 10 points. The 9th point was that it should be specific and relevant. So we want to somehow I'm going to talk to you about social tagging, and there will be some benefits. Now, of course, you'll be thinking, why do we bother doing this? The benefits that we can actually increase the students' motivation to learn intrinsically. That's a huge benefit to OER. And we can monitor against dropouts very sensitively at any time during the course. And what more, we can build in like the PLA, the cross-recognition and job mobility and student mobility. So this is basically what I'll talk about today, that I'll start talking about social tagging and then move on to talk about PLA, prior learning, accessibility, accreditation, and the recognition assessment, and then talk about the skills profiling and how these all interconnect, and the student can do the interactions themselves at no cost to the institution. So usually, as we've talked about, that OER are tagged in two aspects, the academic level and the quality. And we have mentioned, I think, that David Wiley said we shouldn't make e-books that people hate. And another couple of speakers said it should be user-friendly. So we've got to build in not just academic level and the quality, but user-friendliness. And there are other things we've got to build into tagging. Now, I put them here as these 5 things with the 5 different domains of learning. I'll go through this fairly quickly because you either know it or if you're not, maybe not interested, but there are only 5 domains of learning. And we should socially tag OER on each of these. Now, we do know that there are only 5 domains. I know that, for example, at a workshop yesterday, we were looking at criteria-based assessment, which was only in the cognitive domain, the knowledge. There are other things like the student's motivation and time it takes. We can identify that there are only 5 domains of learning, one from literature surveys, but Bloom, for example, he's got this the cognitive, the affective, the metacognitive, and we can look at other problems to learning, for example, barriers to learning. So if we looked at barriers to learning, there's a lot of literature that students find difficulty with. They may say the content is too difficult. They may say that language was a problem, or they can't do computer skills. That was a type of illiteracy, or one of the literacies. They may have low interest, or they don't find it any fun. They're not motivated. They think the tutor was too slow, or they don't feel they can manage. They've got some esteem problems, or no study space, or they've got other duties. They've got just no time left, or no library facilities. Well, we can, or they may just have Google search with 1 million hits. They've got stress, coping stress. So we can look at those, and we can see that those are in the cognitive, those are in the affective, those are in the metacognitive, the environment domain, and the management domain. So there are these 5 domains we should be thinking about, and tagging OER on these. These are the different skills involved in those different domains. So social tagging should include not just those 2 qualities of academic level and quality, but add in the user friendliness, the format, and any comment, and the size, duration. Now I want to talk to you mainly about adding skills profiling to this. So, and the added benefits. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware, most of you probably are aware of this negative feedback loop, where when a student is made aware by the teacher of their current status, that's called feedback on the essay they just handed in, and the target, their target, and they notice there's a difference, that stimulates them to have an emotion which proceeds for them to adopt a strategy, and that is intrinsically motivating. When a student can look at where they want to be and where they are, and they see that side by side in their mind, then that can initiate the intrinsic motivations to learn. So now I want to move on to talk a little about PLA. This is the whole aim here, is to make OER workable, usable. Now, there are 3 types of PLA. So John Daniel gave an interview at there's a PLA journal just started a couple of months ago, and he mentioned that there was a type 1 PLA that is used, like in the British Open University, to allow someone to enter the university. And then the tutor has a heavy workload. And there is a type 2 PLA when a student is in the middle of a course and wants to avoid doing that seat time because they've studied that elsewhere, and they have to just take the exam only, PLA type 2. And I want to introduce you to this type 3 PLA, which is using skills profiling, where we can have a profile of the student and look at the profile of someone, that average student who's passed the exam, and compare these 2 templates online at no cost. We can have all the different knowledge points, or the skills can be subdivided so small, minutely, and the level or the quality on each different point of knowledge. And the student can do this themselves. For example, as a native speaker, I could enter a university to study in English without having to prove with a certificate. And I could self-assess myself on English speaking skills, for example. And then I can apply it to the profile of an entrant student and say to them, I'm good enough. The university would then check and say, yes, we agree with you, and you can proceed. So the student can develop their profile themselves through studying at a school, studying in English, living in the country. They can improve themselves to fit the institutional target profile. That's very motivating to the student to do. It can help prevent dropout because the institution can have the initial student profile, and at every stage, week by week, how the skills will improve during that course. And if a student's profile is falling below that, then the tutor and the student herself can identify where they are weak and need help, need OER to help them. So the idea will be to add the skills and knowledge of each OER so that when the student finds they're lacking on that point, they can locate the OER to remedially improve themselves. And the tutor could suggest it, or the university can do this. This can also improve student and job mobility, because if you have your own online profile of all the knowledge and skills, another university in another country or another just down the road, they can check your profile and allow you to enter that course or just take the exam. And it would mean certificates basically become redundant. That if you've got a certificate in secretarial, what does that mean? Can you use Excel? Can you use Word at this level? They want to know exactly what the skills are. And that's useful for job mobility. Employers especially want to know what that piece of paper means. For example, if you are an employer and someone comes and says, I'm just a ex-veteran retired Navy officer, you think, how are you going to translate his skills into something meaningful in order to employ that person? In Canada, they've done this. They've gone through hundreds and thousands of jobs, and they've isolated and identified